Hey there! My name is Gautam and I'm an accessibility product manager here at Workday.
Hey everyone, I'm Purva Sane, a senior accessibility product manager at Workday.
And we are so excited to be talking with you today in another session of our Workday Accessibility Level Up series. If you're new to the series, welcome to our monthly series on digital accessibility. Each month, we explore a new topic covering everything from general information and guidelines to development, testing, strategy, and content creation. Whether you are new to the field or an experienced professional, we have something for you. And don't worry if you missed a session. Each one is recorded and available to watch for free on our YouTube channel. In previous sessions, we have talked about what digital accessibility is, why it is vital for people with disabilities, how it benefits everyone, and how critical it is to your organization's success. If you're interested in checking out our previous topics, we will be sharing a link to the Level Up playlist on YouTube later on in this session. Today's session is focused on designing for accessibility. First, we will discuss why designing with accessibility in mind is important. Then we will explain why the accessibility consideration that designers must keep in mind to deliver an accessible user experience. Please type any question into the Q&A as we go, and we will answer as many as we can at the end. Today, we may make some forward-looking statements. You should base any purchase decisions on the product that exists today. So let's hop right in. First, we need to understand the importance of designing with accessibility. Designing with accessibility is crucial because it ensures that the product, services, and the environments are usable by people with a wide range of abilities, disabilities, and age-related limitations. This not only aligns with the ethical and legal considerations, but also brings significant business benefits and cost savings. Some of the benefits of designing with accessibility are that it is cost-effective. Addressing accessibility issues early in the design process is much more cost-effective than retrofitting existing products or services. Secondly, it improves users' experience. Accessibility features often benefits all the users and not just those with the disabilities. For example, captions on videos can be helpful in noisy environments, and clear navigation improves usability for everyone. Third, it reduces maintenance. Accessible design tends to be more flexible and adaptable, reducing the needs for costly updates and redesigns. And lastly, innovation. Designing for accessibility can spur innovation and lead to the development of new technologies and solutions that benefits everyone. Now let's look at some of the accessibility considerations that the designers needs to be aware of. We will talk about some design decisions that the product designers make during their design process that have an impact on accessibility. When designers are finalizing their low-fidelity designs and start to think about the color choices, it is crucial to remember that color should not be the sole means of conveying important information. This is due to the fact that the users with color blindness may not be able to perceive or interpret information that is communicated exclusively through color. To ensure accessibility for all users, designers should employ multiple methods to convey essential information. This can include using clear and concise text labels, incorporating symbols or icons, utilizing patterns or textures, providing alternative text descriptions for images and visual elements. By using a combination of these techniques, designers can create designs that are both aesthetically pleasing and accessible to all users regardless of their visual abilities. For example, as shown in this slide, don't show the selected option in menu by simply changing the text color to blue. Instead, consider adding a checkmark icon next to the selected option or use other visual cues to distinguish between the selected and not selected menu options. So what can the designers do? Well, designers have a range of tools at their disposal to ensure their designs are accessible and usable for users, including those with visual disabilities. In design softwares like Figma and Sketch, plugins like Grayscale and Convert to Grayscale allow the designers to quickly view their mockups in the grayscale. By using these tools, designers can proactively address potential accessibility issues and make the necessary adjustment to their designs. Here is an example of a grayscale plugin. This plugin simulates how a user with color blindness might perceive the design, and it helps the designer to identify areas where the color is the only visual cue differentiating elements. When talking about colors for the design, the next thing to consider is the color contrast ratio. Ensuring sufficient contrast between the text, interactive elements, and their background is crucial for accessibility. People with visual disabilities, such as low vision or color blindness, often struggle to perceive content with poor contrast. When designing for accessibility, it is important to keep the following contrast ratio guidelines in mind. For small text under 24 pixel regular or 18 pixel bold, the contrast ratio should be at least 4.5:1. For large text, 19 pixel bold or 24 pixel and above regular, a contrast ratio of 3:1 is sufficient. Interactive elements needs the same minimum contrast ratio as the large text. Here's a classic example of a color contrast issue. Previously, Workday used to have those orange buttons with white text which lacked sufficient contrast, and users had a hard time reading the buttons. We identified this as a great opportunity to improve the user's experience and change the button colors to blue with white text. Now, the users can easily read the text on the button, and they meet the contrast ratio as well. This change not only improved the readability, but also ensured that the buttons met the required contrast ratio. Let's illustrate the importance of color contrast for interactive elements. The left text input field's border is hard to see due to its low contrast ratio against the background. In contrast, the right field's border has a sufficient contrast ratio, making it easily visible. There are several tools available to help the designers check the contrast ratio in their designs. For example, the contrast plugin for Figma allows the designers to quickly and easily check the contrast ratio for any text within their design file. Secondly, the Color Contrast Analyzer plugin for Sketch provides a similar functionality for Sketch users. Color Contrast Analyzer tool is another great tool that allows the designer to check the contrast ratio of any two colors using the hex code or color picker. Moving on, next up is reading order. Reading order refers to the sequence in which the content is read by the screen reader or other assistive technologies. Imagine reading a book where the sentences are all mixed up, or if you're trying to follow a recipe where the instructions are in the wrong order. It would be incredibly frustrating and difficult to understand the information. Similarly, a website with an illogical reading order can create a frustrating and disorienting experience for users with disabilities. Reading order is important for accessibility because it dictates how assistive technologies like the screen readers presents the content to the users with disabilities. For users who rely on screen readers, the reading order helps provide context and meaning to the content. Key accessibility considerations for the designers regarding the reading order are: first, mirror the visual order, meaning that the reading order should generally match the visual layout of the content. Users expect information to flow naturally from left to right and top to bottom. Secondly, try to group the related elements, meaning keep the related contents together in the reading order. For example, an image and its caption should be adjacent. Focus order is another critical aspect of web accessibility. It refers to the sequence in which the interactive elements on a web page receives the focus when a user navigates using the keyboard, and typically with a tab key. A logical and a predictable focus order is essential for users who cannot use a mouse, including those with visual disabilities who rely on screen readers. Key accessibility consideration for the designers regarding the focus order are: first, logical order. The focus order should generally follow the visual flow of the page, typically from left to right and top to bottom. This ensures that the users can navigate the content in a predictable and an intuitive manner. Secondly, meaningful sequence. The focus order should make sense in the context of the content and the functionality of the page. Interactive elements should be focused in an order that aligns with their purpose and the user's expected interaction flow. Hence, if the focus order is incorrect, users might miss the important elements or have difficulty completing the task. When considering the reading and the focus order, designers should document instances where the reading order and the focus order should differ from the visual order of the elements on the screen. In most cases, the reading order, the focus order, and the visual order should be consistent. However, there are situations where it may be necessary to deviate from this pattern to provide a better user experience for people with disabilities. By documenting instances where the reading and the focus order should differ from the visual order, designers can provide clear instructions to the developers and ensure that the final product is accessible to everyone. This documentation should include clear identification of the elements whose reading or the focus order should be different from their visual order. Secondly, the desired reading or the focus order for those elements. And lastly, a rationale for that change, explaining why the change is necessary for accessibility. By taking the time to consider reading and the focus order and documenting any necessary deviations from the visual order, designers could make a significant contribution to creating a more accessible design. Now, I would like to call on Purva, who will take us through the rest of the accessibility considerations.
Thank you, Gautam. Our next topic is alternate input methods. When we talk about alternate, what we mean is users who are not using a traditional keyboard and mouse setup to interact with the web. When designing interactions, it is crucial to consider how the interactions will function with alternate input methods such as keyboard, voice control, software, or a touchscreen device. As an example, we're going to look at a common interaction, the drag and drop. Typically, drag and drop is a very mouse-heavy interaction. You press down the mouse button over a thing somewhere in the UI, and then you move your mouse pointer to another spot in the UI and release the mouse button. But if you don't have a mouse, how do you perform this action? One solution is to provide keyboard support for dragging actions. In Workday, we do this by using the spacebar and the arrow keys. Spacebar lets you select an item to move. The arrow keys will change its position, and then pressing spacebar again will release the item in its new position. To summarize, some things you as designers can do to support users using alternate input methods are: in your designs, make sure you're providing keyboard and touchscreen equivalents for any mouse-only actions. For mobile experiences, think about one-tap alternatives for dragging, pinching, swiping actions. And specifically for voice control users, if multiple controls on the screen share the same visible name, make sure that the surrounding content provides the context to be able to distinguish between them. Next up, let's talk about the layout of the page. When it comes to the layout of the page, there are certain decisions that designers can make that impact how easily users using assistive technologies are able to find and understand the content on the page or perform the tasks that they need to complete. Consider screen reader users. Navigating with the screen reader is a very linear experience. Users can move forward or backward one UI element at a time. With this one-at-a-time navigation, finding the relevant information on the page can be challenging if the information is buried. Another consideration is users with low vision who may be using browser magnification to increase the size of text on the screen. If the needs of users of magnification are not considered while designing, text on the page may overlap, may get cut off when magnification is applied, or the page requires horizontal scrolling in order to view the entire content. This can be frustrating and overly time-consuming for low-vision users who are using magnification. As designers, when designing any page, you need to consider the needs of screen reader users and magnification software users. First, ensure that important information is presented at the top of the page and is easy to find. Second, consider how the page layout will be affected for higher levels of browser magnification, or for that matter, for smaller screen sizes. The last topic for this session is content structure. The structure of the content on the page is very critical for accessibility. Headings help users to understand the overall content on the page and the hierarchy of that content. Additionally, screen reader users can use the headings on the page as a table of contents to understand what is contained on the page and to jump to a specific section. To ensure proper content structure, designers can provide headings on the page and make sure that the headings are arranged in a logical order. To summarize, keep the following accessibility considerations in mind when designing an experience. First, avoid using color as the sole means of conveying information and be mindful of color contrast ratios for text and interactive elements. Document when the reading order and/or the focus order of the page should deviate from the visual order. Interactions should be designed to work with various input methods. Page layouts should surface important information first and be designed to work with browser magnification. And lastly, ensure that the page has headings in a sequential order. By following these best practices and using the available tools, designers can create designs that are enjoyable and usable for all users.
Well, that was the end of our presentation for today. Before we open up for questions, I want to share a preview of our upcoming topics. Over the coming months, we will be having a couple of more sessions focused on accessibility for designers. Future sessions will be focused on developing with accessibility in mind, testing for accessibility, accessibility strategy, and mobile accessibility.
And if you missed a previous session, you can check out our playlist in YouTube and get caught up. With that, we'd like to thank you all for attending the session today. Let's open it up for Q&A now.